Hi, welcome back. Today we are not going to do a book talk, but I am going to tell you a story. As I mentioned in an introduction a while back, I love to tell stories from my personal life, and this is going to be one of them. I come from a long line of storytellers. My first memories are of sitting with my great grandmother, my grandfather, my grandmother, so many people in my family, and listening to them tell stories of growing up. And always they had humor in them, even when times were tough, for they survived things like the Great Depression and the bombing of Pearl Harbor and its aftermath. And that was our entertainment, that and reading books. So I do hope that you enjoy this one. As you can tell, I'm decked out in my flannel. And if you can't tell, California State Parks. For we went camping a lot when I was a kid, and I grew up in California. So this is about my dad. My dad was a mighty hunter. He was a great outdoorsman. My sister and I used to joke that he was born in the wrong century. You see, my dad should have been born during the days of the Wild West. Now, the days of the Wild West when there were still guns, because my dad was a bird hunter, and that was how he hunted, was with a rifle. But you see, my dad lived for the glory and the freedom of the great outdoors. My sister and I would say that he was the original old man on the mountain. So before there was a Clint Eastwood saying, "Get off my lawn," you had my dad on the mountain. And he didn't have to say, "Get off my lawn," because there's nobody on his lawn, because he was the only old man on the mountain. He would have been perfectly content with his dogs, living off the land, hunting, growing things with his hands, for at one time he wanted to be a farmer. And he always did love to grow things. That was my dad. He was a little bit over 6 foot, about 275 pounds, most of the time that I knew him. And he filled a room when he walked in. He oozed charisma. And he was charming. He was charming. And the thing that he was most passionate about, besides the outdoors, was hunting. Now, I don't know about you, but if you have ever grown up in a family where someone likes to hunt, this either becomes your way of life or you are drawn into it. So in our family, it was my dad, my mama, my sister Beth, and me, the baby. So we didn't matter what we wanted. Outdoors and hunting were our way of life. By the time I was 9 years old, my dad had given me my very first camping knife, and at the same time, I had my hunting license, because as long as we had guns in the house, we were going to make sure that we were properly trained in safety. But also a hunting license, because you never know, we might want to go hunting. And I did go hunting with my dad a few times. But first, let's talk about him as a great outdoorsman. Now remember, I told you, my dad was born in the wrong time period. So you see, I'm not trying to bash anyone who goes camping now and you get in your RV and you go with your little friends and you sit around at a very nice campsite where you can walk somewhere and there's indoor plumbing. I'm going to tell you right now, there is nothing so beautiful in this world as indoor plumbing. And I'm speaking from experience because my father, wrong century, remember this now, old man on the mountain, that was not true camping. No. True camping was to go in the great outdoors with a shovel and just a little bit of toilet paper, because you know that's what makes it exciting, to see how long you can make that roll of toilet paper last. Because see, as a man, he didn't need as much. And he failed. He could not fathom to understand why us women might need a little bit more, especially during certain times of the month. And to my dad, signs did not mean anything. Something that said private access road. Private? Private access road? What do you mean by private access road? This is God's country. God made these mountains and these trees, and you can't lock that up away from me. So, yes, we just invaded people's personal property and we would just go camping. Because, in my dad's philosophy, this person probably has a lot of land and won't notice. And sometimes they didn't. I remember one time when a gentleman did notice and came out with his rifle. Tells to get off his lawn. And suddenly I found myself thrust before my father like a shield. Sir, good sir, it's my family. We just made a mistake. I think I was like 8 years old. It's always good to know where you stand in the hierarchy of things. But nothing will appeal like a sweet 8-year-old blonde child who doesn't know what in God's name is going on except that you are now a living shield between you and your family and a rifle. We were able to get out of that one. For the most part, when we entered our little private access roads and went into God's country, we weren't disturbed. Except we went on 2 to 3 week family vacations. Because see, this is the 70s and 80s, my friends. And that's what you did. You went on 2 to 3 week family vacations where you didn't see anyone else except your family. That's right, your family. And if you didn't go to a place where there was no plumbing, after a while, you start doing this. Is that me? Is that them? Oh my God, it's all of us. We all smell. And if you were lucky, you might be able to camp somewhere where there was a creek nearby, or a creek, if you might want to call it. You can bathe, but it was never enough. It wasn't enough. And then remember, I told you, your next best friend was the shovel. And if it was that special time for you as a young woman, you'd have your dad yell out, "Bury it deep! Make sure you bury that deep!" Because, there's going to be bears and cougars all around. So that was always a special joy. I can still hear my father. "Bury it deep, Rachel. Bury it deep." Yes, the closeness and bonding time of family, something special. Now, the other thing we always did too is my dad liked to play the game of the unexpected, which meant that when we went on hikes, well, we weren't always prepared. Now, I think the last time I went on a hike with my husband, we saw people walking by and they had backpacks and, God knows what they had in it. They might have had survival kits and food and water bottles. We definitely saw water bottle straps, No. See, because you're not truly experiencing the unexpected pleasure of God's country, the great outdoors. No, we just went with nothing. No water, nothing. Don't even know how long the trail might be. Which leads me to my dad as the mighty hunter. Now, my father, as I already previously mentioned, was a birdman. If you're a birdman, if you hunt birds, for the most part, most birds, you're going to have bird dogs. And we always had dogs when I was growing up, and my dad trained them, and then I had the pleasure of helping him train them. And it is a lifelong passion of mine, is working with dogs. I just love them. But my dad also learned bird calls. Now, if you're a bird hunter, you know that you can't always rely on a man-made device, okay, for calling birds, because you never know where you're going to be, if you drop it, whatever. So my dad would practice bird calls. Now, I used to know how to do some of these, when I was young, like 10. I'm not going to embarrass myself now on YouTube. But my dad would practice these, and he was awfully good. He was a good hunter. And for the most part, he went hunting with his buddies. He had a good time. It was a good bonding experience. But then his buddies weren't on board for the one thing my dad always wanted to hunt. The turkey. That's right. He wanted to hunt a turkey. Now, you don't take a gun to hunt a turkey. It's usually bow and arrow. So my dad bought the most expensive, of course, bow and arrow. And he was a strong man. I mentioned he was a big man. He was strong. And he'd go out to a local archery range that we had at a nearby park, Santiago Park, and he practiced. He practiced and he got to be pretty decent. But you can't just know that. You got to study. My dad was reading books about turkeys. He sent away. Now, at this time, okay, this particular time, it was still cassette tapes that were ruling the world. And for those young people out there, cassette tapes, mixed tapes, all right? You can Google it, you can look it up, find out what that is. But us older people know what a cassette tape is. So he sent off for this program, this learning program, and they sent him cassette tapes of turkey calls. So at night, instead of us watching TV, because that would disturb my dad as he was practicing this, we had to do a quiet activity, which was fine. We read books. But once in a while, my dad had to say, how does this sound? So it'd be like young Tom mating, right? So he'd play the tape. We'd hear it. My dad would do the call. He wanted honest criticism. Sounds a little off, not exactly. At first, it was horrendous. And he had a sheet that showed how to make the different gestures and so forth to have it sound like that. So he got good. He got pretty good over about a 6 months period. We got well acquainted with young Tom mating, okay, because that was the one he was really focused on. So my dad was working on this project solo because he knew his hunting buddies, they weren't interested in it. So this was a new venture for him, but he was excited. So now we're going to combine my mighty hunter of a dad with the great outdoorsman. And these two things didn't often meet when we went on a family vacation. But this one time, it did. So we were up at Big Bear, which was a place that we camped a lot. And this is Southern California. And Big Bear Mountain is a really popular place for a lot of people to go. And of course, my dad would pick unpopular spots for us to go. But most of the time, we did go to campground, okay? Because this is a spot where, there's not a lot of private access roads up there where my dad can just dip in. And we were driving by this one trail, Cougar Crest Trail. And my dad said, hey, yeah, why don't we go hiking? None of us are prepared for this. Remember what I told you? If you're prepared, you're not ready for the unexpected. That's right. It really didn't matter if any of us were up for it, because guess what? Dad was ready. That's right, Daddy was ready. So we all reluctantly climbed out of the car, except for my dad, who's raring to go. And we have no idea how long this trail is. It says 3 miles. Is that 3 miles one way? 3 miles total? We found out later it's actually 6 miles total. But there's a sign up, and the sign said closed. It was put up by the park rangers. Remember what I told you about my dad and signs? That's right. When you're in the great outdoors, there are no signs. My dad says, you can't close off nature. You can't close. Look, there's a trail right there. There's nothing wrong with that trail. I don't see anything falling. There's no fallen rocks. We're gonna go. We're gonna go on this trail. My mom said, Gary, there's got to be a reason that the park rangers put that on there. They just don't put up signs like that for no reason. We're good. We're good. Well, guess what? We found out later, when we came back out, that it was closed because it's called what? Cougar Crest Trail, right? Cougar being the key word. My grandpa used to call them painters, mountain lions. This is mating season for cougars, and the reason it's named after them is because this is one of the spots they like to mate, which we discovered as we were going on the trail, and we can hear them mating, and we even got to see a couple mating. That was exciting. It was exciting knowing that death was right there, and gee whiz, Dad just knew how to show us a great time, and he told us, don't worry about it, they're busy. They were busy, all right. So we take off. No water bottles, facing death, following Dad. This is a typical vacation. So here we go, following our fearless leader. Mom's behind us because, at this point, after being married to this man for a while, she realizes there's not much she can do but protect her children. So as we're going along, it's a pretty nice day. You can hear the cougars in the distance, but we hadn't seen any yet. And my dad said, "Stop. Do you hear that?" We're all like, "Hmm." Now, I should give you this little caveat and say my sister is a teenager at this point in high school. And if any of you know teenagers in high school, I do. And I love them. I love young adults. And one of the things I love about them is when you ask them, "Do you hear that?" and they don't want to be somewhere, their response is going to be, "No," because they really don't care. And God bless my sister. She really did not care. She just wanted to get through this, okay? And I stopped. I was in junior high, so I was pretty much with my sister as well, but I didn't hear anything. I was trying for my dad's sake because I was always his little girl. And my mom, no, none of us heard a thing. I thought I heard something. All right, let's go. We're walking along. That's the stuff. We freeze. I think I hear a turkey. Now he's whispering all this, okay? Now I'm gonna stop whispering because I'm not sure y'all can hear me. But he says, "I think I hear a turkey." Hmm? So then Dad does a call. We wait. We hear something. Now I don't know if it's a turkey, but we hear something. And Dad turns around with this grin. Oh, and we're looking at him like, "Yeah, we hear it too. We hear it too. Ooh, you the man. You the man." Yeah, because the mighty hunter. All those months, the turkey calls, and we hear something. There was something. He gave out a call, and he got a response. So he goes, he said, "Don't move." So he does another. And then we hear it again. And it's louder. Like it's coming closer. Like it wants to come. And we're expecting a hen to walk across the trail soon, right? And so he does again. He does a call. He gets a response. He does a call. He gets a response. He does a call. He gets a response. Oh my God. This is incredible. Our dad is making magic happen. Oh my gosh. It's really incredible. And my dad is like a kid in the candy store. I mean, this is like the ultimate excitement. I mean, this is what he wants, right? He wants to go turkey hunting, and this is proof that he's got the calls nailed. He's in front of his family. He's getting to show us what he can do. And I got to back up and let you know that the trail that we're on, remember I said we're on a mountain, Big Bear Mountain. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with camping, the way roads work on a mountain is you're going to be on the outside of the mountain, and it's circular like this, right? And as you get it towards the top. So we're climbing towards the peak, okay? And we realize, my mom, my sister, myself, that about a split second before my dad does, what this sound is. Now, it's not a turkey. It's not a turkey. No, it's not a turkey. You see, the entire time my dad's been doing a call and a response, and it's been getting closer and louder. It's because something is coming up outside the mountain on the road. What we are hearing is the sound of an ambulance siren. That's right. An ambulance siren. And the second we realize it is the second after my dad does. My dad's face flushes red. And we can't help it. We are laughing. We are laughing. Oh, we are laughing right there in the middle of the road. We don't care that there are cougars mating out there on top of a cliff that might come and eat us. My dad has been doing a call and response, not to a turkey, but to an ambulance. And my dad just takes off. And we're collapsed on the trail. We're laughing. We can't stop. My father has left us to be eaten by the cougars. And we finally pull ourselves together because we realize it's kind of a crap thing to do. But come on, man. It was funny. It was funny. So we get ourselves together. And we make our way back down the trail. And we see our dad talking to the park ranger, which is how we found out, even though we already saw it, why the trail was closed. So we get into the truck. All of us have pulled it together. We pulled it together because this is not the first nor the last time we've had an adventure like this. And we don't say a thing. Now, I am very sad to say my dad's passed away, and he never, ever had the opportunity to go on a turkey hunt. Just never pulled together. I don't know if he just didn't want to do it without a buddy, but it just never happened. But none of us ever talked about it again except for me. That's right. So every time I went riding in a truck with my dad, and we'd pass an ambulance, I'd say, Dad, look, there's a wild turkey. I'm not going to repeat what my dad would say back to me because it would be highly inappropriate for certain audiences. But he never did find it very amusing. Now, as I mentioned, he never did get a chance to hunt a wild turkey, but my dad is a great outdoorsman, and he was a mighty hunter. For I don't know of any person, any hunter, that has ever been able to call an ambulance using a wild turkey call. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed the story of a real family outing, camping outing with from my youth, with my dad, Gary, my mom, Sharon, and my sister, Beth. It's one that we still laugh about to this day, and it's a good one. So until then, I hope that this finds you well. Remember, everybody has a great story to share, and I hope that you continue to share yours. Out.